Tag TV and Tag Radio. Be seen and heard by both technology users and technology producers throughout the state of Georgia and around the world. Low cost, big benefits, powerhouse online branded video and audio has arrived. Tag TV, Tag Radio, there's a lot more to know. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Enter Her Majesty's Consul General Annabelle Malins. That's right. Since September 2009, she has led a staff working throughout the Southeast on a wide range of issues, including support for British nationals, public diplomacy on the UK government's policy priorities, scientific cooperation, and transatlantic trade and investment. Greetings, everyone. It's Tuesday, March 22nd, 2011, and this is a very, very special edition of Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. A global interconnected economy. Where does the UK see opportunities for trade and investment growth in Georgia? As Tino greets and meets the United Kingdom's Consul General for Georgia and the Greater Southeast, Madam Annabelle Malins, previously Consul for Science and Innovation at the British Consulate in San Francisco, Ms. Malins led broad-ranging exchanges on climate change and energy issues while building UK-US bridges on all aspects for science and technology. Annabelle joined the UK diplomatic service in 1999, having enjoyed an extensive career in the agricultural industry and in international development. She's provided consultancy and advice to governments, big business, and small farmers in many parts of the globe, including sub-Saharan Africa, the Caribbean, India, and Latin America. From protectionism trends in the southeastern United States to the UK strategy to support growth and its growing ever stronger economic relationship with Georgia, as Tino Tech Talks doing business with the UK with Her Majesty's Consul General for the southeastern U.S., Annabelle Malins.
Annabelle, thank you for joining me on Tech Talk.
Thank you, Tino.
Well, let's jump right in. Atlanta Business Chronicle has had some coverage on things related to the work that you're doing. We understand that government officials from your trade and investment team have been here for a couple of things. One, the Olympics, which is very exciting, and then also DOHA agreement and trade talks. So where does the UK see opportunities for trade and investment growth?
Well, as you probably know, my responsibilities cover the southeast of the United States, which is a major economy in its own right, I think GDP equivalent to Canada's. So as you can imagine, the economic agenda is a very big part of my job. As you've just mentioned, we have quite an active exchange of policy officials as well as business folk coming between Georgia and the UK. Well, on the trade investment side, you should know UK is a great trading nation.
Yeah.
I think we actually ranked 6th largest exporter globally, and we're also a really big overseas investor, I think, with the 3rd largest global investor. So quite naturally, for us, trade investment is, front and center of what we're thinking about when we're talking about our economy and particularly economic recovery. Just last month, our government launched a new white paper on trade and investment, which covered a whole range of different recommendations on how to help bring back up trade investment and grow it beyond where we were pre-recession. And that covers a range of areas focused on private sector-led growth. It's all about resisting protectionism, championing open markets, pushing back trade investment barriers. And of course, what happens between the UK and US is really crucial to that. Our trade relations are exceptionally close and deep, and the UK is the largest foreign investor in the United States. And of course, the US is the UK's top export destination after the rest of the EU. So although we, like many other countries, are looking very closely at all the opportunities in the emerging economies. It's actually our relationship with the US, which is by far bigger and more important than any of those other partnerships, and we expect that to remain so. So we see huge opportunities here for trade and investment growth.
Well, of course, I've been here for quite a while with TAG and get to work with a couple thousand companies that are members of our organization. And you mentioned the word protectionist. So I'm wondering, have you seen protectionist trends in the Southeast? And talk a little bit about why open markets are important.
Well, it's not too surprising with all the economic woes that we've been experiencing that one hears a lot of protectionist sentiment in the public debate. It doesn't take so much the form of traditional protectionism. I think one tends to see it more around perhaps some of the procurement policies, whether it's buy local, buy America, which are tinged with some protectionism in nature. In this part of the United States, I don't think it's a huge factor, but it's certainly those types of provisions have crept in onto draft legislation in Washington, D.C. But why it's important is it's all about growth. We see open markets as being a crucial driver for growth. I can give you a couple of interesting illustrations on that. One, for example, we sometimes think in terms of free trade agreements. Well, Europe, the EU, concluded an FTA with Korea last year, and that's actually going to come to effect this year. And it's estimated that will double the value of our bilateral trade with Korea in 20 years. So it's a big growth driver. The numbers around that are really very impressive. It will remove nearly 99% of EU-Korea tariffs. And if you look at that on a global level, it's even more significant. We think that this year, 2011, is a real make or break year for the WTO Doha agenda. And we commissioned a study to look specifically at what successful conclusion of the Doha round would do in terms of impact in the U.S. And it comes out with some stunning results that our study showed that if the Doha round is concluded successfully, it will create an additional 390,000 jobs in the United States, and worth something like $38 billion. And we also looked at it on a state-by-state basis. And for Georgia would benefit to the tune of 9,337 new jobs.
Very good.
A GDP gain of $948 million. So that just shows how vital open markets can be as a growth driver. Well,
talked about Georgia, so let's talk a little bit more about Georgia, our favorite state. So what's the UK's sentiment about Georgia and economic relationships with this state? How do we stack up with other states, say in the Southeast at least? And then specifically, are there any recent successes that you'd like to tell us about?
Georgia certainly is something of a hub of this emerging economy within the United States, of the Southeast itself. For the UK, it's very near the top of the list in terms of being a magnet for UK investment. In fact, the latest data that I've got shows that there's something like $1.8 billion of UK investment here in Georgia, and there are more than a couple of hundred British companies operating here, providing 24,000 jobs, or perhaps a little bit more than that. And many of those are providing salaries at higher than national average. And of course, we're quite a big export market for Georgia too. I think we're one of the highest, if not the highest, export destination for Georgia in Europe. So that makes us, that's an important part of Georgia's opportunities too. And of course, you do import from us too.
Yes. And do you have any specific success to point out? Anything recently that's happened, or?
Well, I've been very interested to see the level of business investments happening here, and it's pleasing to see in the last few months we've seen a number of notable, exciting new British companies investing here in Georgia, including a health IT company called Craneware, which is growing very fast in the U.S. market. Another company, really hot news, a company called PageSuite, which provides technology for digital media, which is also set on a very fast growth trajectory. So Georgia is certainly attracting British interest in that way. And we're also seeing some interesting investment in the UK, particularly on the tech scene. I haven't got specific examples of new Georgia companies moving in, but there's a lot of interesting growth in the tech sector as a result of the Olympics and the development of the East London Technology Hub, which has seen investments already from the likes of Google, Cisco, and such like. And we see that that will probably attract in others, including from the tech sector here in Georgia.
Well, it's great that you mentioned health IT and digital media, digital content, and, of course, those are two areas where Georgia leads. We've identified recently that Georgia is actually number one in health IT in terms of number of companies and amount of revenue that's produced out of here. So it's great to have more, and we're building that cluster, which is terrific. Well, we're almost out of time, but before we go, I'd like to just ask you where we can find out more information, where our members can find out more information about how to do business with the UK.
I hope that listeners will visit the website UK Trade and Investment, and if you put into your search engine UKTI for UK Trade and Investment, it will lead you straight to their website, which will tell you a lot more about their services. But contact us here at the British Consulate in Atlanta too, and set up a meeting to come and see us and tell us about your interests and plans. We'd love to help.
Well, thank you for joining me on Tech Talk. Thanks for being good friends with TAG and with Georgia, and all the best in terms of your continued growth and our continued building of a relationship.
Well, Tino, thank you very much for having me on the program. We're very impressed with all that TAG does. Building a community here for the technology sector is most definitely one of the draws for British business when they look at where to set up in the United States.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.